This is why cancel culture is unfair. What I really want to put an emphasis on in this video is reform. And believe it or not, I am actually pro cancel culture. I think it can be collectively validating for groups who have experienced harm. I think it can encourage accountability and growth for people in power. I think it can normalize the acquisition of cultural justice for those who deserve it. People who get canceled, I'm also not meaning to justify their words and actions, but in this video, I'd like to challenge all of this thinking just a little. It's definitely case by case, but when you hear someone say, people like that don't change, do you really believe them every single time? Like everyone? Is it something actually done every time though? Am I saying people shouldn't be canceled? Not quite. And I'll get to some examples too. Cancel culture is a cultural phenomenon where people think someone acts or speaks out in an unacceptable way, so that person is given the cultural cold shoulder, per se. They're boycotted, shunned, fired, sent death threats, or even assaulted, and this is usually aided by the use of social media. This has been going on forever, but it is extremely common to the point where it's actually a public matter, arguably relating to mental health, personal privacy, freedom of speech, and more.
Example.
After the 2024 Met Gala, TikTok users said that it's time to block all the celebrities, influencers, and wealthy socialites who are not using their resources to help those in dire need. These platforms were given to them by regular people. It was time to take back the views, the likes, the comments, the money, and everything by blocking them on digital platforms. They committed what many called the celebrity blockout. People are dying while you do nothing with your 10 to 100+ million follower platform, but flaunt your opulence and extravagance and show no interest in helping the followers without whom your influence would be nothing from the start. Why do these celebrities need help? I mean, no one's making you follow them. That might be true, but does the Met Gala really have to charge $75,000 per ticket? Does the average price of a Super Bowl ticket really need to be $8,600? $1,600 for a Taylor Swift concert ticket. What about those dreamers whose parents can't afford it? The kids who just want to experience something like that. Is the TV all they have until the 1 year in their lifetime that they might be able to afford it later on? At what point is this lack of opportunity for the less fortunate going to catch up to the society in which it takes place? And yet, is that line of logic really worth totally blocking the ability of the privileged to access said opportunities? If you can't tell, I'm really stuck on the fence on a lot of these perspectives here. You might find me throughout the rest of this video just trying to consider all of them. This Met Gala is just one example, and dropping follower counts by hundreds of thousands, upwards of millions for people like Kim Kardashian, it didn't do the damage people may have wanted it to, but at the very least, it did spark conversations about social injustice and wealth inequality, and I don't think people will pretend in the future like it never happened. What happened to Drake in 2024? Jeffree Star moved out to a ranch in the middle of Wyoming selling meats, well after videos resurfaced of him, I think, publicly shouting racial slurs like 10 years ago. But a year or 2 or 3 later, he starts appearing on numerous podcasts and posting on social media all over, and people are starting to respect him again. In 2022, a guy threw a tirade at a smoothie shop, throwing his smoothie, shouting racist insults at an employee, only to get canned from his big-time wealth advisory position at Merrill Lynch, laughed at, and scorned for his behavior locally. The same year, Kanye West made controversial anti-Semitic remarks during a series of interviews, only to loot a decade-long business partnership with German sportswear giant Adidas. Janelle Evans from Teen Mom's husband, David Eason, was fired after making homophobic comments on Twitter, and she was fired a year later because, in the words of a Reddit user, abusers like control more than they like a steady paycheck. Even if these people don't get fully canceled, they lose millions of dollars, they go bankrupt, they lose the loyalty and respect of their followers, and it can make their lives hell. What this feels like over time, precisely, the matter at hand seems to escape no one's concern. Again though, this was just examples. During the rest of this video, I won't really use any, but I will talk about the negative effects that, according to my research, it can have, and I'll leave it to you folks, the viewers, to rely on your own knowledge of examples of this, as there are so many out there, like so many. First off is bullying. According to an interdisciplinary study on the humanities by the Rupkatha Journal in the Philippines, cancel culture is looked at by its victims as online abuse. They can't turn anywhere. After their cancellations, they experienced threats, harassments, and attacks on social media in addition to the boycott and withdrawal. I know, I may sound like the devil's advocate even reading that, but just hear me out. If you look at any comment section on a Facebook, TikTok, or Reddit post about just one of these people listed, and you forget what it's actually about, there's some nasty stuff on there. It includes a backlash, cyberbullying, and public humiliation that understandably damages mental health when done on a large scale. Just just focusing on one human being. These intimate, embarrassing, and demeaning things can dismantle a person's sense of self after their acts or words that bring on the cancellation. They may feel unsafe speaking up or even leaving their homes with good reason. Second is public discourse. Public discourse is any method or form through which individuals may express opinions and concerns regarding the decision-making process. Okay, so it's basically everyone's unique ability to voice their opinion. Fancy words, right? But critics of cancel culture argue that it has a chilling effect on this, as it can be counterintuitive, not bringing real social change, causing intolerance, and it inadvertently prevents education and growth. More on some of these later. Joseph Heath wrote in an article on Substack about how philosophers should be worried about it. Philosophy of all things we're getting to at this point. The way he spoke about it made cancel culture sound inevitably yet inherently toxic. It arises from a change in the structure and dynamics of public discourse. As a result, there is no substantive position one can take that will offer immunity from its effects. Third is intolerance. When people are getting canceled left and right, they may be a bit wary of what they can and can't say. Maybe it could be too offensive for some, or it could be misinterpreted. It's almost as if people are coming up with their own law in society where if you say the wrong thing, your life could be ruined in ways that don't have to do with legal consequence. Maybe at some point later on they could. But like I said before, followers respect hundreds of thousands of dollars, etc. This doesn't seem to be government regulated in that sense. Gaining those things might make you feel like you live a free life, but how about losing them? And indefinitely so. People grow intolerant of the wrong words and the wrong behaviors, and when you allow that intolerance to dictate who rises and falls in popularity and doesn't really have the opportunity to get back up, almost like empires, it can really foster more an environment of shame than accountability. This raises questions of free speech, but that's another video topic, and admittedly one I'm really not that familiar with. Fourth, it shuts down the opportunity to learn. It just makes you wonder if bad people can really make good music or good art or good movies. Does integrity and just being the good one in the corner, doing what they're told, does it really allow the limitless possibilities of excellence and expression in life? I didn't think the video would really even get to that point. I feel like I'm going way deeper into this than I need to, but back to the point. How are these people supposed to redeem themselves? Can't it be like jail when you're deprived of these privileges and there's a reform kind of process that allows you to grow while you gain them back? Now, if this were systemic, obviously, it would be something that, like I said, case by case, it could be flawed. But again, many other video topics away from this, the amount of tangents that this could be related to and that I'd have to wrap up is just, it's too much. The examples I gave, Jeffree Star really kind of stands out because it's something where there was a fall off and there was a period of transition and difficulty for him, and then there was a little bit of a comeback, and now it seems like he's on the upswing. I was speaking to my wife about it, and she also mentioned James Charles, it sounds like is on a sort of a better path now too. So it's kind of like you create your own reform and the public dictates whether that reform is working or not. The tricky part is determining what case really deserves a second chance, or if a person just comes back out and starts giving example after example of why they deserve that status again without saying, oh, I'm doing this and this. They're showing the world what they want to do before saying it. It probably sounds like too much work, doesn't it? I mean, you could just let human nature run its course. That's what it seems that a lot of the time people have been doing. How often does it happen, and how often do you hear about it? It almost makes me wonder who's to say this cancel culture phenomenon wouldn't just repeat itself as a result. These are difficult questions I don't have the answer to, but one thing that comes to mind is that the road to success can be paved with danger, failure, discouragement, judgment of others, doubt, fear, a lot of stuff that you might experience on your way to utter cancellation. Why not go down that road again? If it means getting back to the place that you once were at and showing your supporters that you're one who can learn from their mistakes, can the hope of reconciling, rebuilding, and restarting what once was be enough to show the world a change they didn't know they needed to see from you in order to heal and move on from the trauma and pain and that you are caused by that cancellation? These are also difficult questions I don't have the answer to. I feel like I gave a little bit less of answers in this video than questions. I tried to do what I could to present some research and at least provide some differing perspectives on this so that someone who's on just one could at least open their mind a little bit to the other. But I hope this has helped in some way with doing that. If it has, or if you agree or don't, please let me know in the comments below. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already so you can see a little bit more of the content we're putting out on this channel. And if you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. I really really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.